So I think what's going to be important for operators as well is, this is going to be about conveying, building trust and confidence so that operators are providing a safe environment for the people to actually come into.
Sure.
And we still want to convey that feeling of hospitality.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important as operators, I think, that you're actually telling that story, that you let people know, because as I say, it is, we are going to need to build trust and confidence that we can look after people.
Sure.
And so the heightened cleaning, all those sorts of things, and particularly perhaps more regular cleaning around those public spaces is certainly going to need to continue for the foreseeable future.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure many operators have obviously taken this opportunity to continue and maintain the relationships that they have, and there's perhaps been the opportunity to pick up the phone and talk to people one-on-one.
Yeah.
Rather than, often we all get lots of emails. And it is going to be important that we remember the existing customers and our suppliers. I mean, they're all critical as well to our continued survival. So there's those things to do. I guess I would say also, don't be silly about pricing. There are going to be a lot of people that aren't going to be able to afford to travel. So, dropping prices isn't necessarily going to encourage them to come either. And I think probably in terms of each segment returning, the way that will occur is obviously going to be it's going to be relative to the lifting of the restrictions for their own businesses, and also their ability to spend as well. And so there's probably opportunities here to look at segments and maybe invent segments that perhaps weren't part of your traditional business. And it will be thinking about, why should those people actually come to you? And how do you then communicate that to people? Continued engagements and partnerships within your own communities, and that is going to be critical. I mean, one good thing that could come out of this is that we could see that a lot more local mayors have become more aware of the vitality that tourism hospitality actually brings to their local community.
Yeah.
There could be some good opportunities to actually engage and draw on that. And again, combined with that, regrettably, with the number of businesses that have gone into hibernation and closures, it is going to be important to be across, what businesses and what attractions and what is available actually in your region now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Perhaps part of the messaging too is moving away from book now to about encouraging people, particularly in the leisure market, to dream about that future break.
Yeah.
And actually think about that. But again, I think above all, it's being transparent, it's being compassionate, and we all need to work collaboratively here, because the recovery is going to take all of us, and it's going to take planning, and it's going to take action. So it is about us all working together, and there isn't going to be one single solution.
No, that's very true what you say. I don't think there's any denying that the scene is going to look quite different to what it did, 2 or 3 months ago. No one's denying that. So it's adapting to that, and it's our approach to our industry as a provider, as an accommodation provider, may look quite different. So you have to be open to what that might look like. Our guest split could be quite different. Those events and that you talked about. I'm not a professional in this space, so I'm not giving any advice. But we do talk to a lot of clients, and that's just the feedback that we're getting. That's good. Australia. What's your thoughts there?
Look, obviously, and I'm sure everyone on this will have seen that there's more and more talk about that Trans-Tasman bubble. Obviously, the governments are talking. And there is a strong desire on both sides of the Tasman to get that up and running. I mean, after all, virtually about 1.5 million of our international visitors to New Zealand are from Australia, and while a lot of those will be visiting friends and family, they still, when they come here, that they eat out, they do things.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the story as well, isn't it? Because by people travelling in whatever sense, that is actually, people are then spending money, and that is creating jobs or enabling people to stay in jobs. And so therefore by travelling, you're actually doing something good for the respective communities. So
and we did touch on it earlier before this call, the sub bubble with Tasmania.
Yes, Winston seems very keen on that. And I was supposed to be going to Tasmania for Easter for 10 days, so I'll be quite happy to see them up and running.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, the ski season's right in front of us, which is obviously brings a lot of Australians. So the timing's going to be critical here. What's your thoughts around that?
Yeah, and look, and I don't know. I think there are some saying that realistically it may not be to those September October holidays before we get something happening there, so I think these decisions are at the moment in the hands of others, but obviously as TIA we're continuing to lobby for the importance for that. I know perhaps in Queenstown at the moment, they're probably seeing the ski season as being very much a local one. So
it's a hard one, but I mean at the same time it gives us such a brilliant opportunity to get out and actually visit this country that we're so blessed to live in. People from all around the world come to see our country, and so often Kiwis are so keen to go elsewhere, which I suppose is natural, right? You always want to go somewhere else. But we're so blessed to live in this beautiful country. And if we've got a little bit of downtime, or our workload isn't quite so as demanding as what it should be, it's such a brilliant time to get out and see it ourselves.
It is interesting, Luke, because you allude to that issue of, I think, anywhere in the world, people view spend on domestic travel quite differently from the way they do on international. And look, there were many Kiwis that were intending to do overseas trips this year. So as you've alluded to, we have a beautiful country. How do we get them, for those that are still able to take that trip in New Zealand? And obviously, Tourism New Zealand have been tasked with that domestic tourism piece. And we'll look at what sort of messages and that are coming out from them in the coming days and weeks, because that will be obviously critical to that recovery.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean that's probably a side note, but my family and I got 3 little children, as I said before, and we drove from Hastings down to Timaru, and over a couple of days. But those things like on the ferry and stopping off at different and the kids remember it. They've got photos and they always talk about their time on the boat and that kind of stuff. And it's all those little memories that you actually take forward with you into your adulthood that you love, and it shows that country that we live in.
And often those memories they're not just about things, they're about the people and the experiences and the great service and hospitality and Kiwis as Kiwis. We're laid back, we're relaxed, but we're still caring and professional, and we're proud of our country, and it's continuing to be so, and to provide that to our guests wherever they're from.
That's right.
Or how talented some of them can be.
That's very right. We have got a few questions coming in. Have you got a moment to touch on some of these? Do TIA expect the government to extend the wage subsidy?
Look, we've certainly been pushing for clarity on that extension. So any announcement, as we understand, is likely to be in next week's budget. And look, I guess the messages coming out from government have been perhaps about more targeted support rather than just a general extension to that 12-week wage subsidy. We've also been sort of lobbying for reduced government fees as well, whether it be, DOC, Department of Conservation, Aviation, Maritime, all those sorts of fees. And I know we know from operators as well that rent relief is also, the relief from those fixed costs has actually been a key issue. There possibly hasn't been as much, particularly in the rent relief space, as we would have liked to have seen. And we know some landlords have been great, and others less so. I think next week's budget we will see, and our sense is as well that there will start to be a series of announcements as well. So there will be some things in next week's budget, and then continued announcements over time.
Sure. I mean, you touched on it, but there's another question come through. Any news on government support for those with commercial leases? I mean, obviously that's people on rented properties. That's one thing that's not changing. Any thoughts there?
Look, no, there probably hasn't been enough specific movement on that one, because we're aware whether it's at rent or equipment lease. Obviously, for some attractions as well, they have big tie-ups in equipment, that there still hasn't been the level of support or relief that we've perhaps seen offered in other countries around the world.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's good. There's another one, just we'll wrap it up soon, around, we've probably alluded to it a bit, South Korea, Taiwan, some of those countries that the numbers are shown to be really low, extending our bubble to them. I suppose Australia is the first one to get in the bag. Then we can look further afield. Yeah,
and look, in other markets is obviously going to be dependent on that air capacity, and those links. So prior to this, we obviously had a significant number of airlines flying into New Zealand, and a lot of those obviously aren't currently. So any extension of long haul is completely dependent on that air capacity. But look, it is a good point that there are other markets out there, and I imagine that will be the flow on will be based on those other countries also having this virus under control, because again, what we can't have is, even when borders do start to open up, is you can't have people having to isolate or quarantine for 14 days at either end, because suddenly there's a month, and that's not practical.
Yeah. Talking about airlines, I don't think anyone would want Greg's job in New Zealand at the moment. If you want a rough start to a job.
Yeah, and even Dame Therese Walsh coming in as chair as well. So, and other organisations out there. I mean, New Zealand Rugby have laid off 50% of their staff. So, Mark Robertson, as the new CE there, has walked into that. So there's challenging times across the entire economy, and there's not going to be one single solution that's going to wave the magic wand and fix this. It will take some time.
Yeah, that's very true.
We will get back. We know that. It will look different, and this is an opportunity. Some of the challenges that industry was perhaps having out there. This is an opportunity to perhaps address some of those. I mean, we'd seen Queenstown talking about a bed tax. That's gone away for the moment, but there's no doubt those conversations around local government funding for some of the tourism infrastructure are still relevant. We've seen a growth in short-term accommodation operators, and there's opportunities here for, again, everyone working together to fix some of those things, and the sustainability message is still going to be important, and not just environmental but economic sustainability. again, that community engagement as well.
It's interesting you touch on that, because that's often been a pet bugbear of mine, as people talk about sustainability in a sense of purely environmental, whereas sustainability is it's economics. Is if you haven't got it, you can't do the other half. So yeah,
absolutely, and we're all regrettably experiencing that at the moment.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's great, Sally. I really appreciate your time. We've done a few minutes over, and really appreciate everyone coming on. Good number on today. We will be back Thursday next week, 10 a.m. with a new guest speaker. But at this point in time, thank you, Sally. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And we'll chat again.
Okay.
All right. See you.
And let's fingers crossed for level 2.
Thanks, Sally.
Okay.
All right. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.